of the Caitlin Clark discourse, something we all thought, I think we were said and done with a year ago. But it's come back with a vengeance, not surprising, frankly, in Trump's agenda as white America is on the constant search for grievance. But I'll throw it to you, Etan. And by the way, how offensive is it that they're still on the hunt for grievance, like a pig rooting around in you know what for some mushrooms and truffles when they have the government, they have the Supreme Court, they have the Congress, and still they want to smite out even any bit of independent thought that doesn't go with their right-wing fascistic agenda. They won't be happy until they're all silent. So, of course, they're hooking on to every last thing, including a WNBA story that I really did think was dead and buried and we could just enjoy the games, but I guess not. Etan Thomas, what are you seeing, sir?
Well, I would love for it to be dead and buried. Let's just talk about the greatness of the WNBA. There's a lot of talent in the WNBA. The games are great, but there's a certain demographic that is only there for one person and one person only. And you want to try to get away from it. You don't want to have to always answer it, but then you have more and more prominent figures who are now jumping on the bandwagon of using Caitlin Clark as a symbol of white supremacy. And the latest was Dick Vitale. So this was just yesterday. So I saw his tweet. And I'll read his tweet. His tweet said, absolutely pure jealousy that the WNBA players voted Caitlin Clark the 9th best guard. Someday they will realize that she has done all that she has done for the players in the WNBA. Chartered planes, increase in salaries, sold out crowds, improved TV ratings. And so I'm looking at it and a lot of respect for Dickie V. I remember when he called my house and told me that, you know what I mean? And I was in high school and he's like, oh, is this the Sultan of SWAT? Is this the top? Like, that's how he talked on the phone. I remember that. But I had to ask him. I was like, and I tweeted back. This is what I said. I said, so you're pushing these savior, jealousy, and ungrateful narratives too. Number one, the increase in salaries and chartered planes were in negotiations in 2023. Caitlin came into the league in 2024. That's number one. So then number two, Caitlin only played in 9 games and is shooting 38 and 29%. It wasn't a popularity contest. It was a vote strictly of on-court play. But hey, don't let facts get in the way of your narrative. And I saw that Chuck had a similar response. And it's one of those things where you can't get away with it. You can't get away from it. So Chuck, tell me your response, because you saw from what was it, Brick Cinder, and then they posted it immediately and want to chastise WNBA players and talk about their jealousy and how ungrateful they are. But you talk to me as well as what you saw.
Etan, I want to go straight there, but I want to know, did Dick Vitale call you the Sultan of SWAT?
Yeah, that's what he called me when he called my house back in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'll never forget that.
Oh, I love it.
All
the Sultan of SWAT. That's what they called that to Babe Ruth back in the day. But I think your point is important because Dick Vitale might be one of the most positive figures in sports announcing history, which is rooted in negativity. But if you listen to Dick Vitale, who's an institution, he is a guy who's just only has positive things to say about everything. And if you have any argument with Dick Vitale, it's too positive, right? He's overselling players. So when someone is mainstream and positive, it comes from him, it has a different weight than a Barstool Sports, right? It has a different weight and reaches different people differently. And I felt the same way about that. I didn't respond to Vitale's. I responded to a few, but Christine Brennan, because Christine Brennan is a pioneer. She's a woman pioneer in the journalistic field who's done some incredible things, incredible stories over the years that you just have to give decades of respect to. But in the last couple of years, she's seized on Caitlin, and almost the only thing she tweets about these days is Caitlin, and almost nothing else in the WNBA. And what she wrote yesterday was, Caitlin Clark finishing first in the All-Star Game fan voting and 9th in the player voting reveals an obvious and crucial disconnect that the WNBA leadership would be wise to address. They should have done it last year before her rookie season, as I report in her book. She is asking the WNBA to address a vote disparity. And the way she sees it, the fan vote is more correct and the player vote is incorrect. And she has it backwards. And this is where we have to fight misinformation. There's a lot there that she didn't do. First of all, let's take a look at the fan votes. The fans had 4 Fever players in the top 9. They had 8 Fever players in the top 40. Kate Martin, once again, her Iowa teammate, who's a sub, who shouldn't be in the top 100, makes the cut again. Last year, when we saw vote totals, we saw her at 12. This year, we saw her, Kate Martin, ahead of Kayla McBride, Sonia Citron, Rike, some great players she's ahead of. So this is what the fans are giving you. That's their lens. And what Christine Brennan has missed is that popularity has already been baked into the vote. So 50% of the vote is for the fans. You have popularity built in there. 25% of the vote goes to media who are very concerned with growing the game, as Christine Brennan is. She always talks about it. So that's another 25%. 75% of that vote is really about popularity, growing the games, and a skewed opinion. There is a 25% vote left for the WNBA players. And their job and their requirement is to only judge merit. Only judge merit. And that's exactly what they did. They judged merit for what the reasons you say. Caitlin is only shooting 39% this year and 29.5% from 3. Both those percentages don't crack the top 50. That's before we add in that she has missed 7 games. That's before we add in 5.9 turnovers, which is higher than the WNBA record she set last year. She's not having a great season. And it is clear, and we do this in baseball and NBA, if Yordan Alvarez this year is injured and having a slow start, he won't make the All-Star game. It happens all the time. So they were tasked with voting this year. And if you actually go person for person, 9, it could be even lower. They're mad at her. They're mad at WNBA players for doing their job correctly by a body that cannot assess WNBA players because they don't even know them.
All right, Chuck. I hear you there on a lot of fronts, but there are some things that need to be said. First of all, I mean, the Dick Vitale thing is very important because he is a hype man, and I think it does give the game away a little bit that there aren't Dick Vitale tweets about Nafisa Collier, who is just destroying this year, averaging 24 a game. Asia Wilson is doing Asia Wilson things. Kelsey Plum is on the comeback with a new team in LA. Paige Buckets has a massive fan base and is one of the league leaders in assists. And to me, it's so interesting because how is this different than LaMelo Ball being voted onto the NBA All-Star team by the fans, and then that really getting kiboshed by the other voters involved who are like, LaMelo Ball, his game doesn't really lend to winning. He's had some injuries, and Charlotte stinks. And the stats are empty calories. Therefore, no LaMelo Ball in the All-Star. And that's fine. Fans like watching LaMelo Ball. He's an exciting player. But when you get to the issue of merit, LaMelo Ball just did not this time make the cut. And when we talk about Caitlin Clark, the most important statistic to me is not the 38%, 29%, because there's been some bad shooting this year in the WNBA by some players. To me, and she is averaging 18 points, 9 assists. Those are the Caitlin numbers. 6 rebounds, 5 rebounds, very good numbers. She'd be second in assists right now, but she's not. So why is she not second in assists, even though she has 8.9 assists a game? It's because she's only played 9 games.
Yeah.
She hasn't even played enough to be on the statistical charts.
Right.
When you go to the WNBA page. And so if you haven't even played enough to make the official statistics and you're expected to be on the All-Star game, that to me, frankly, speaks more to a kind of, what's the word I'm thinking? Entitlement. As if you're entitled to that spot, and no one's entitled to an all-star spot. And the entitlement is very bothersome. Last thing is Christine Brennan. We also have to understand Christine Brennan has this is very sad to me for someone with her track record. She has extremely little respect among WNBA players. They don't respect her because she doesn't respect them. Yep. She's the reporter who the WNBA union had to put a statement about.
Yep.
And not speaking to this person because, and this is their perception. I'm not going to comment on it. I know Christine, so I'm biased, but it's frankly something I can see. They said, because too many players attested to it, they said Christine, every time she was with the players and she had that kind of access, she was a troll. So you could have a game and score 40 points, and she'd be like, do you think Caitlin Clark could score 41?
Right. No, that's what she did.
Yeah, trolling. And trolling is not reporting. And so that to me is even like, that to me more than Vitale is kind of like the harmful stab. Vitale is very aged, and you wonder who that would appeal to, honestly, at this point in his career. Brennan, it's like, hi, I am women's sports in journalism, and I'm telling you that they're jealous. And that to me is toxic. And nobody said NBA players or executives were jealous of LaMelo Ball.
Right.
Well, so I have to disagree with you on the Dick Vitale reach. I mean, even the tweet that he sent out, it got 4.7 thousand retweets. 56,000 likes. So people are definitely agreeing with them, and they're searching for anybody who is a prominent figure to echo their sentiments that, all the WNBA hates Caitlin Clark. Oh, they're all jealous of her. And the problem, the one that I really gets to me, is that they should all be so thankful and grateful and bow to her feet for all that she has done for them. And I was like, how disrespectful and insulting is that? You know what I mean? And this is not anything against Caitlin Clark. And I always have to say that because people, always like, well, what do you have against Caitlin Clark? Caitlin Clark, there's nothing, there's no issue with her. I saw at the game that she was trying to advocate for more pay for the players. She was like, well, why are we only getting half as much as we would get for winning that WNBA championship as we win for this championship? I have no problems with Caitlin Clark. The problem is her fan base, who are using her for a symbol of white supremacy. And that's why we can't get away with it. That's away from it. That's why every time something comes up, they go and they look to bash Angel Reese. Angel Reese don't have nothing to do with the conversation. They go and bash her. You know what I mean? They bring her into the conversation. And it's that constant, that's that constant hatred. And people keep making the comparison to Bird and Magic, and that is good for the league. I don't think this is good for the league. I mean, I know the ratings are up. I know more people are tuning in. I understand why they didn't show the game last night, which was a fantastic game, but Caitlin Clark wasn't playing, so they didn't even show it on any major networks. It wasn't on ESPN, wasn't on ESPN2, ABC, CBS. None of those networks wasn't on Amazon Prime. Now, it was a great game. I watched it, but nobody saw the game. Why? Because they're only marketing one person, one golden goose, and that's the problem. And then they want to push the narrative that, everybody else doesn't like her, everybody else is jealous of her, and that's problematic.
I think we got to say, though, because we are talking deeply about the racial animus, white supremacy. Sexism is a huge part of this story. And that, to me, is one of the biggest difference between Bird and Magic. There are a lot of differences. But Bird and Magic, it was always like, look at that competitiveness. They make each other better. They make their teams better. Shit gets physical. Rambus gets clotheslined. Rah! NBA at its best. When it's women, it's couched like a cat fight. It's couched like they just want to tear each other down because women, that's another stereotype of women. Get a bunch of women together. They're not trying to lift each other up. They're like crabs in a barrel pulling each other down. That's a fake stereotype, yet that's how it's being framed. The jealousy, the trying to pull Caitlin down instead of her letting them ride on her shoulders and go up. It's all being phrased in this kind of jealousy. That's maddening to me because somebody, and here's the sexism part to me, and race obviously affects what I'm about to say, but the sexism. When Tiger Woods broke into golf, there was a lot of talk, not just about Tiger, but about, he's elevating Sergio Garcia. He's elevating Phil Mickelson. He's elevating Ernie Els. And in the WNBA, it's never about the idea of people elevating because there's now this more attention on the league. It's always about their desire to stay small, to not have the amenities that they have, because of course the amenities are due to Caitlin Clark. So they get it wrong on the economics, they get it wrong on the history, and I think it's really sexist.
And to add to that sexism, I think sexism really enters when the fouls discussion happened. That even a white player, Bird or another white player, could get fouled hard in the NBA, and there's no litigation how hard that foul was. But you're having really a white male crowd, the barstool crowd, the outkick crowd, all of a sudden have this protective reaction like she's a 6-year-old little girl. But even if they did that to Luka, they wouldn't have been mad that Luka got fouled like that. So there's something that doesn't even apply to white men. And that's the part that actually scares me. The part that scares me is when I see white men protective of a white woman in a very rational way. I don't need to go down a long history of like lynchings in America that often started with a white woman. We know that history. But when I see it's so irrational, and it's not just irrational, it's coming from a lot of the people who have said, be tough, who have demeaned women for being soft. And now they're being their protectors. And all you talk about previously is how you're not masculine enough, not soft enough. So I have a problem with that sexist dynamic. And the second problem I have, which is why I don't think it's gone away for 15 years, is that, well, what's the difference? I don't believe any of the male discussions, even Larry Bird, while they're elements, and even Chrissy Everett and Martina, while they're elements, there's a precedent for this. Because people are jumping in who've never jumped in before. It's not just Vitale. It's every week. Last week it was James Woods and Charlie Kirk, who have millions of influencers. It was Riley Gaines as well. People who know nothing, particularly Charlie Kirk, about sports, but they know about selling white grievance. And they're making big complaints, and they have millions of followers. They have a direct line to the Trump. Don't be surprised if Trump weighs in soon to manipulate this advantage through sports, because he's done that in the past. And these are the things that actually make me fearful, is that she's used in a way to sway a white grievance to do it, and it's based off falsehoods. So I think anytime we see a false statistic, we have to combat that statistic, because sports gives us one advantage over politics. There's only a realm that you could lie, that you have to be close statistically. We have a stats. Trump could not win an MVP if he played in sports. Homer Bush batted 200. George Bush became the president of the United States. The reason Homer Bush can't, because he batted 200. So we have stats there to use in ways we don't have in other arenas. So we have to use those facts and those stats and fight back all of the nonsense.
Let me just say one thing before we bring a bit on that. The thing that also that Charlie Kirk and James Wood and all of them and the right and MAGA who are all jumping onto this bandwagon, they're saying, as they're pushing a racial element, that the players don't like her because she is white. And
Yes.
then they push this white victimhood. And all of these black WNBA players, these big women that are scary and everything. All you gotta do is look at the comment sections. And that's where you see the racism lies. And it's interesting that they always say this about Caitlin Clark, but they never bring up any kind of racial animosity to any of the other white players who are all successful. Never Kelsey Plum, Paige Buckets, Breonna Stewart, Cameron Brink, Diana Taurasi. None of them has there ever been any accusation of a racial bias, but only with Caitlin Clark. And that's because they're holding her up as this symbol. And as many times as Caitlin Clark has said, don't do this. These are not my people. I don't stand for racism. I don't stand for bigotry. It's now bigger than Caitlin Clark. They're like, no matter what you say, this is how we're going to utilize you, whether you want it or whether you want to or not.
And heterosexuality is a part of this too, in a big way. Like one reason they weren't trying to defend Diana Taurasi is Diana Taurasi was not in their camp, so to speak, of their vision of the world and how it should be. So, in Caitlin Clark, they have that avatar for white grievance, the way blonde Riley Gaines is an avatar for white grievance. But if Riley Gaines was gay, they would throw her over the ship side like there was no tomorrow. So, so we see the way oppression thrives in the Caitlin Clark narrative. I think that's the